getting the man of the hour, the president of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourist Association, Sanovnik Destang. I hope I pronounced his name correctly.
Perfect.
You understand? This is a Caribbean hotelier, but I'm saying Lucian hotelier, to be honest with you. Now, you have been talking about Airbnb and some of the things that you would like to see happen as it relates to Airbnb and the hotel sector and taxes. Can you give me an insight? Yes.
Yeah, so at the CHTA, we've recently released a short-term rental framework paper. The short-term rental sector currently makes up about 30 to 40% of arrivals coming into the Caribbean. In Jamaica, in St. Lucia, they're a major player right now. And there's often been concern about regulation, standards, and yes, taxation as well. Our position paper and our framework is very balanced. It's not looking to over-regulate that sector. It's not looking to tax it out of existence. From a personal standpoint, I personally book about 80% of my family trips at an Airbnb. Right? It's convenient, you have more space, you get to explore the local community, and we want that in Caribbean tourism. I mean, we've just seen iShow Speed go throughout the Caribbean, including Jamaica. So what having iShow Speed as an influencer go through the Caribbean did, it helped to really showcase the authenticity of the Caribbean. And that's something that Airbnbs and short-term rentals provide, that chance to really get into the community, get into areas you may not have gotten into otherwise. But at the same time, there is also a potential risk from a reputational standpoint if they do not meet certain basic standards. Now, we're not expecting and advocating that the same standards that would apply to a 100 or 500 room hotel would apply to a 2-room Airbnb. It isn't practical, it's not fair. But there are certain basic safety standards that they must all have in place, and these are outlined in the paper. We also had a discussion about the economic impact that they have, the very positive economic impact that they have. There's also a room for CHTA and a desire for us to provide training and development to that sector as well to make sure that they're able to raise their standards. When it comes to the whole question of taxation, all that we are looking for and have always advocated for is fair equal treatment. That if the hotel sector in a given country say pays 10% tax, that of course is passed on to the consumer, that sector should pay the same tax or have the same tax paid on them, but that they also make their contribution. In St. Lucia, for example, the taxes that are collected by the hotel sector go directly to fund the St. Lucia Tourism Authority's marketing. So it's ring-fenced in that sense, and we want that sector to do that. That's already happening in St. Lucia. But what we also do in St. Lucia, which was highlighted as a best practice, is that sector also gets access to the same incentives that the hotel sector gets.
So ideally, what you're saying is that the Airbnb, once they become regularized
and registered,
they would be afforded the same types of incentives
Absolutely.
as the hotels.
And this is what exists in St. Lucia right now with our recently passed legislation. So once you meet the standards and you're able to you get registered as an Airbnb in St. Lucia for any tourism business, not just Airbnbs, attractions as well, you can get income tax incentives, you can get duty-free incentives, you can meet the same. So it's treating people the same regardless of their investment, whether it's local, foreign, large or small. But they also have to make their contribution from a tax perspective for the sake of fairness and for the sake of equity.
So what about those who say that, okay, we are poor people's business, and as a result of that, government should not necessarily be taxing us?
Well, the first thing that one has to understand is that that tax is not a tax directly on the business. It's a tax that's passed on to the consumer. So the impact that it could have, yes, is your price would have to increase to accommodate that. Will that necessarily have an impact on demand? I don't necessarily think so for that sector, because that's the fastest growing sector in terms of demand. A 5 or 10% or whatever increase in their pricing as a result of taxes need not have that impact if they continue to deliver that value proposition, if your reviews are good and so on. That is what we have generally seen. That sector is not that the demand is completely inelastic. It could have an impact, but not anything substantial, because the demand for that product is so extremely strong. It's the fastest growing segment right now. And the leakage right now to governments is substantial. In one large destination, I think it was Dominican Republic, we estimated that it's about $170 billion in taxes leakage a year. It may not be as big as that in Jamaica or St. Lucia, but it's going to be in the tens of billions in any destination. There's a lot that the government can do, especially if it is diverted towards marketing for the destination, which benefits the Airbnbs. And we also, in the position people said that it may be possible to divert some of those tax dollars towards building affordable housing. Because we do know that having so many homes converted into Airbnbs does have an impact on housing for the local community as well. We did recognize that.
So finally, you are not trying to crack down on any Airbnb operator in the region.
No, not at all. In fact, if anything, if you're a good operator, a lot of these standards that we're advocating for, you probably already meet them. You just need to have them registered and certified by your government authority. We also advocated for, in addition to registration, fair, equal treatment in regards to taxation, access to incentives. We're also advocating for a lot of things that would benefit that sector as well. Because what we want is to see that sector grow in a sustainable way for the benefit of the Caribbean tourism, Caribbean people overall, and to encourage entrepreneurship, including among our industry employees. We know a lot of industry employees who have Airbnbs of their own, and we want to see more locals get into the tourism sector. And that is one of it's easier, I suppose, for the typical, local Caribbean person to get into that sector as opposed to building a hotel. And it's very important that locals and Caribbean people have that sense of ownership and have direct investment in the hospitality industry, which is our mainstay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Appreciate
you. Much appreciated.